Video games, an art form equivalent to an interactive movie. They let you see, feel, and be something else. In them, you can experience and engage in worlds entirely familiar or totally foreign. They are immersive and interactive films, movies you can play, though maybe kind of boring movies sometimes.
Oh my god! I'm gonna get so many potatoes from this!
So then why are so many people against video games? What are they missing? What do they see in TV shows and movies that lets them watch for 3-4 hours a day on a daily basis that they don't see in video games? What are they missing, or what are we missing? Oftentimes we hear people say, maybe it's your family, your parents, get off those video games, go get yourself a job, you're doing nothing, you're learning nothing, they do nothing for you. Ironically, while that person's probably watching sports on TV for the last 6 hours, I don't know. But is there anything useful in a video game? And that's what I want to talk about here in this presentation. I think, at first glance, you can make the argument that video games and TV shows or movies are about the same. They're multimedia, not too big of a difference. But I would actually go ahead, if we dig a little bit deeper, I think video games are actually better. That they're better than these films or TV shows or some of this other passive consumption media that we watch. And that's because they require interactivity, they require you to do something. They require skill. And you might not have that skill at the beginning of the game, but you probably have that skill by the end of the game. And I think a lot of the time, those skills that we find in video games, that we develop hourly and more as we do more and more games, and we just got this huge library of games we've played, at the same time, we've got this huge library of skills that we've also developed. So I want to take the time here in this presentation to kind of just vaguely connect some different games, maybe some different games or game genres, to some of the skills that you might see or use in that game, things you probably have already developed, things you're probably already a lot better at than you thought, things that translate directly to jobs or careers. So I want to take a look at it briefly. We're going to connect some game titles to some possible jobs and to highlight a skill that might be in there. But to do this, we're going to need to kind of start to apply this to ourselves. So I want you guys to make a list, just a few items, of your favorite games, maybe like 3 to 5 of your favorite games, and your own maybe 3 to 5 special interests. So I want to make a really important disclaimer here that this is a very subjective topic. A lot of this is just kind of from my perspective, the games that I decide to include, so there's some bias on that, and the jobs that I've thought they might connect to. Is that a concrete connection? No, of course not. This is, all I want to do is just be able to supply a little bit of information, just a little bit, kind of like that seed planted that can get you to think about what your own favorite games are, what your games that you would include in the list would be, what those skills, what skills are involved in those, how those could connect to different jobs. I got a very limited list, and this list, there's a lot of overlap too. A game or a skill that you would find in one game, you probably find in a lot of other games too. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm trying not to overlap too many things. So I'm trying to keep things, I'm trying to give new ideas for each one. And again, you might completely disagree. You might say, Josh, there's no way that has anything to do with this game, or that job has anything to do with it. And that's okay. I don't want to claim that, oh no, what I'm saying is exactly right. I just want to get those ideas flowing for you personally. I don't know you, so you're going to have to take these ideas and magnify them into something. Turn them into a job, turn them into a job search plan, career plan, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Or just, you get a chance to look at my beautiful face for a little while. And if that's the reason you're watching, I'm not going to judge you, though there's a lot better faces, so maybe go find someone else. With that, let us jump into the slides that we're going to see. All right, so here we've got the template for how I want to dive into this information. That top part is going to be the game aspect, and that could be something like a game mechanic. It also could be something a little bit more theoretical. As I was making this list, I was trying to think real hard of all the reasons why we might really enjoy a game. Some of those could be, real straightforward. This is how the game was programmed. Some of those could be a little bit more in the background, just things that we enjoyed that we might not be quite as conscious of. It kind of just depends. So my list is a little bit, it could be a little bit erratic, so please feel free to edit my own list, make your own list, and that would be great. This section here is to show the different games that I feel best exemplify these potential jobs and that game aspect. Of course, a game does not have just one thing about it that we like. There is so much overlap in here, but what I really wanted to do is just kind of think of one game that I felt best represents that principle and try not to reuse different games for different aspects. That way we can have a little bit of originality to it. This is the potential job section, where I'll kind of outline some jobs that I feel might stem from this game aspect or these games that we really enjoy. What I tried to do was avoid something really broad like a career, and just try to stick to a little bit more of the specifics, a little bit more of the jobs that you may find at any point in time on different listings, different postings. I didn't want it to be gatekept by like a need for a lot of education or a lot of experience. I just tried to keep it as general as possible, something you could maybe even work on your own, as well as get jobs in these different fields. This is the skill highlight. I tried to distill one skill from the potential jobs in the games. For the most part, they have individual skills, but some of them do overlap. And again, there's so much overlap in this. I just tried to kind of focus my list in this way. You could do it in all sorts of different ways, but let's jump right in. Art style. We may play games for the way that the environment makes us feel, the way that the art looks, and we just are captivated by that. I feel like the skill highlight in that is creativity. If we can create interesting environments that bring out emotions, that helps us to really enjoy that aspect of the game. And the jobs that connects to could be something like graphic artist, photographer, cinematographer. Those are similar in the audiovisual realm, but also florist. Now it's a little different, but the idea is you want to create essentially a piece of art that elicits a certain emotion in the person that you're giving it to. Competition. This is something we see in a lot of games, a lot of multiplayer games. It's ubiquitous to a lot of different things, and we see it all over the place. But I think that a skill highlight within that is communication. The ability to work with a team, the ability to say, okay, I'm going to do this, you do that. If you've ever played a game, something like Overwatch, and there's just no communication between the people, you guys, you end up really angry at your teammates saying, why did you do that? We're all back here doing this. Communication is key. And that plays a role in a lot of different jobs, and it could be something like sales, where you really have to sweet talk the person to get them to buy the thing that you want. Or maybe a lawyer. That one's a little bit of an education paywall, but we can go into like a paralegal, where we're working in a lawyer's office, still have that sense of I got to be better than that person, I've got to win, and I've got to communicate this correctly to get people onto my side. And something like public relations, in particular, the idea that you're trying to beat out the other competition to show why your brand is the best. There's a little bit of a competitive spirit in that, whether it's your candidate, your investors, or just getting your brand out there. Storytelling. We play a lot of different games to see how the story progresses. Sometimes we get games that aren't very good at that, but sometimes we get games that are amazing. And I feel like the skill that highlights that is the unique perspective. We see a lot of stories told over and over and over again, but if you can get a new angle or a unique perspective on something familiar, that's when a game really stands out. And potential jobs that correlate to that could be something obvious like a writer, and that could be an author of books, that could be a screenwriter, even somebody who just makes YouTube videos. You got to write the scripts, write the different storyboards for it, whatever the case is. Similar to that would be a videographer and a podcaster. I think a little bit differently here, though, is marketing. And it's kind of like the last one where we really want to tell the story of our client. We really want to set that apart. We want it to be unique. We don't want to just be another burger restaurant or another paper company. We want to be something special and different. And working within marketing and commercials and billboards and stuff like that, the ones that really stand out are the ones that make us laugh or have a unique perspective or make us think. And that's kind of my connection for if you really enjoy the storytelling. The reward system, this one again is a little bit theoretical, I guess, and a little bit harder to connect. But the idea is that we have planning, prioritizing to try to get us to that next thing we want. We want that next piece of armor. We want that weapon. We want that skin. And in order to get there, it's going to take a certain path, a certain bit of planning and focusing our efforts into that. And I think we see that in something like sales or in particular like a waiter-waitress job. The idea being you're really trying to extract that reward from the person. You want to give them a good experience. You want them to give you a bigger tip. You want to show them a good time so that you can get that next reward out of it. No one likes a waiter that doesn't care or is mean or rude. We always like that bit of customer service. And we can see that customer service in sales. We can see that in something like an investment job that tries to get us that next big, bonus. Something that gives us that next big bonus. We oftentimes play games for the thrill. It could be something that we might not be able to do in real life. Maybe we can't go back in time and play in a different time period, or we can't be in the military. We can't snowboard professionally. But there's still this essence of this really big, epic adventure to the game. And I feel like the skill that often goes with that is something like risk taking, where we want the big payout, so we put the big risk into it. And that could be just something even like a ski lift operator. A lot of the time you get to snowboard around, ski around the mountain in your off time, and you just get to have a good time. I've heard a lot of different people that really enjoy doing that. They come out to the big mountain resorts just to be, to live that kind of ski life. Something like a sports instructor, whether it's rock climbing or some sort of extreme sports. A travel writer, again, kind of gets that thrill of seeing an environment and writing about something that's not just your day-to-day home, something you see all the time. Something that's not quite as obvious, something like a cook or a chef. The environments in those cases are very fast-paced, they're very intense, and you kind of get this almost like this sense of all of these ingredients are in front of me, we've got to put all these things together and make into an excellent experience, an excellent dish for people. There certainly can be a bit of thrill. It's not quite so almost boring, I guess. It's not really a boring or a slow-paced job. It's really fast-paced and demanding. Freedom. This one ties in pretty closely to thrill, kind of almost a sense of like an open world. We get to kind of choose what we want, do what we want, and I feel like that takes a little bit of discipline. When you have everything open to you, it takes a little bit of discipline to say, I'm going to focus on this, not on those things. And we see that in something like a food critic or a travel guide, where you get to kind of decide, I'm going to go here and bring the story of this place to the people. It's a little bit of adventure and freedom in that. And same with something like an outdoor guide, a park ranger. You've got this sense of the entire national park or whatever is around you, the environment is open for you to show to others. It could be a guided tour of just a local thing, or it could be a guided tour of a national park. And whatever the case is, you're out in nature or in the environment and putting your skills of, hey, look at this interesting thing. Let me explain this to you, show it to you, explain why I love it, putting those kinds of skills to use. Problem solving. This one's in pretty much every single kind of game ever, but there's a couple of games that really highlight that. There's a couple of genres, I feel like, where you're really putting extra effort into understanding how to get to that next point. And I feel the skill that really comes with that is critical thinking. And something like Portal is extremely good at showing what I mean by that. You can't move to the next section, to the next level, whatever, until you figured out how you are going to get yourself there. You got to use your environment. You really got to put your critical thinking skills to the test to get through that. And if you really enjoy that, something like these jobs, I feel really connected to that, whether it could be an event coordinator where you're pretty much always trying to solve problems. You kind of have things laid out, but at the last second, things come in, people come in and change things. It's a fast-paced environment. You're really always problem solving. A mechanic is the same way. You don't really know what's gonna drive into your shop. You got to take the time to figure out what's happening and problem solve and cut a lot of different things out. I'm an IT guy. It's the same kind of idea. A user says, hey, this is not working. It's up to me to say, okay, why? What's causing it? Let's figure it out. Critical thinking, problem solving. Structure and predictability. This isn't necessarily something that we, really love a game like, oh, I love Minecraft because of its predictability. It might be a little bit more behind the scenes, but the idea is that we kind of know what to expect. And within autism, that's a really, really common thing. We don't necessarily always want there to be new and adventurous stuff. Sometimes we do. We've seen a lot of different cases where we do want that. And sometimes we don't. Depends on the game, depends on our mood, depends on our personality. But I think if we've got structure, predictability, a skill that highlights that is the analytical thought. What am I going to do next? What do I have to do? Let me plan, let me organize. I'm not rushed, I'm not competing, but I do need to really think out what needs to happen. And we see something like that in data entry, file organization. Every company needs this, spreadsheet analysis. And even something kind of more specific like record archival. If you're in the Wasatch area here in Utah, we've got a lot of different options there, something like Family Search or Ancestry. I previously worked there, and a lot of the idea was that we're going to take these records and archive them, and it was a lot of repetition. It really allowed me to get good at one thing and kind of hone that skill a bit, rather than something more adventurous and I have no idea what's going to happen next. Precision is something that I feel like I really enjoy in a game sometimes, whether it could be a shooter and you just really love kind of getting the accuracy out of that, or something like something like stealth. I really find joy in kind of that efficiency take, and I think that's the skill connection, is the efficiency that's needed with precision, where you got to do it over and over again until you get it right. Something that kind of lends to that, jobs that kind of are in that vein, something like an editor. You're really focusing on all the different mistakes that might happen. You've got to really hone in on the details. An insurance agent does the same kind of idea. There's an emphasis on detail and efficiency and making sure you're getting things correct, quality assurance, and especially we see this in programming, web development, There's a little bit different fields, but the idea is if you aren't detailed and focused, it could fall apart. Whatever you're building program could fall apart very quickly, very easily. And so that efficiency, detailed aspect of games, I think, can very, very well lend to different types of jobs. We kind of harken back to the art style here with mood and tone. And again, we see that creativity. You're trying to set an environment. You want people to feel a certain way. And that could be something with interior decorating, whether that's staging a house to be sold or trying to get a company's office to look a certain way. You're staging and kind of creating an environment. It could be something like a music composer, where an environment and emotion is brought out through the music. And it could be something like even just fashion, where you are able to size up a person, you're able to understand what they want and say, these are the things you need to do in order to create that look, that emotion, that environment around you, whatever the case is. This one's a little bit weird. Technology, it's kind of focused, and this one, might apply only to a smaller section. Someone like me who's IT, I really enjoy this. But the idea is that I really enjoy seeing the future and seeing what technology can bring. I work in IT, and so that could lead to something like IT help desk. You're trying to help everybody solve their problems. Maybe you're working on a network and trying to figure out how to improve a network or expand it. Even gadget review, you can connect this to your special interests and make something really focused on things that you enjoy. These next few are a little bit more, they're a little bit different, I feel like. They don't lend necessarily to jobs. They're not exactly a perfect game aspect, but I want to talk about them nonetheless. The idea of leveling and maxing, it really requires planning and organization, and that's where you're going to see a lot of detail, logistical things, event planning, starting your own business. That's going to really appeal to you. Humor, same thing. If you want to work in a funny environment, there's a couple of places you don't want to work. There's also a couple of places you might really want to work. Something like a content creator, advertising, public relations, that's all going to benefit from a unique perspective and being funny. And then power, that one's really weird, but also we really enjoy that sense of, I am the king of this environment. I have the total power, the overall power to kind of control what's happening around me or my destiny in a way. A lot of the times these kinds of games kind of go in hand with thrill, and they make us feel really powerful, really good, really useful, whereas in a world we might not necessarily feel that way. And so something like potential jobs that might connect to that, these might not be all that obvious at first. So let me go through them a little bit. Generally, the idea is you are the gatekeeper to these people's enjoyment, I guess, these people's happiness. You are the one who kind of brings about a specific mood or something for the client. As a realtor, you are the person who introduces them to a house, and they might think, you know what, this is my dream house. This is perfect and beautiful, and without you, I could not have done it. And there's a little bit of a sense of power to that. Same with IT consulting, whether that's like troubleshooting, help desk idea. People call in with their issues and say, I just can't figure it out. I'm done. I'm at my wit's end. Help me. And you are the person who controls that. You are the person in the power that says, oh, have you tried this? Or let's do this. Let's try these things to fix or overcome your problem. And you might just make them cry with happiness at the fact that you have solved an issue that has plagued them for hours. You have the power to help them. Same thing with a wedding planner. Everybody has a really grand idea of what they want out of their wedding, and you are the person who coordinates all the different aspects of that. Kind of similar to event planning that we've seen and talked about before. You are in control of these things, and you can bring about the happiness that the people are looking for. They might come to you at the end and say, this was the best thing ever, is exactly what I wanted it to be. It's exactly how I envisioned it since I was a child. And all of that would be your fault, so to speak, in a positive way. All of that is because of you. You had that power to coordinate and bring these things about. So I don't know if that kind of gives you a little bit of ideas on what you could possibly do for a job, for a career, something you could look into. But if you're feeling like, I just don't know enough, I don't know the technicals. Yeah, I like these games for these reasons, and I feel like maybe these are the skills that I've developed without necessarily realizing it, but there's still some specific knowledge that I just don't know. If you're asking something like that, I would go check out all sorts of different communities or websites that kind of are aimed at teaching you the specifics. People have created videos, they've created courses and coursework and all sorts of different things to help you learn all of those specifics to go with these kind of background skills and sometimes soft skills. So take a look at this list. Go and check out these different things. Some of them are paid for. Some of them have free deals, especially during the coronavirus. A lot of people have, they're letting some of these courses go for free. So be sure to sign up for those things. You don't have to pay for anything. And just make sure to match it to your interests. The things you like, the things that you want to do on your free time can also segue into the things that you do for a job, the things that you do to make money. Get paid for the things you like, get paid for the things you already do. Those things are really important. Otherwise, you're just not going to enjoy your job. You're not going to enjoy the 8 or so hours a day or less, whatever you're able to do. You're just not going to enjoy those. And why not? Why not enjoy something? Why not wake up and feel like, what? I've got something to contribute to. I'm excited. That makes life a lot more fun. So try to find those connections between the video games. Try to find those connections to the jobs you like, the skills you've been building, despite what your parents might be saying about get off those games. Check those out. Check out these other resources and just try to learn as much as you can. And I promise you will not regret it. So anyway, I hope that this has at least given you guys a little bit of food for thought, I guess. A way to say, what, maybe I do have skills. Maybe all of those years I've spent playing video games are not a waste. Maybe they have some sort of real world application. And I would strongly argue that they absolutely do. You have been developing skills far more than you even realized for years now. Yeah, it's kind of hard to make that jump to getting into a job or into a career, but I think if you have just a little bit more encouragement, hopefully that's what this presentation has done, offer just a little bit more encouragement of, what, you're a little bit further along than you think. You're a little bit better than you think. And despite, the world saying, get off of those games, they are not good, which is how my dad sounds, so don't judge me. Or him, I guess. Even though we've heard that from so many people over and over, I kind of think that they might be wrong.